Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your hosts on this journey.
This podcast is created in partnership with Pennsylvania ASCD. Welcome back, SEL and EDU family. We are thrilled to have two amazing educators with us today to share about how they are creating an inclusive and connected environment for their students. First, though, Craig, good morning. Good morning. We often do these sessions in the evening, so I'm happy to see your smiling face bright and early. How are you?
I had to go ahead and I had to get a little cocoa butter up on the face. I had to make sure my eyebrows was going in the right way. Because it's a whole rage. Like, you just can't go out with ashy face in the fall. Like, it's a whole thing. And I have to be honest, like, also then the sun is shining. You can't see it from where I'm at, but the sun is shining and we have the fall foliage happening. So all of this is great, but like, can you imagine the sun showing up and then you got like, it looks like you got flour and you've been in a bakery, like right up under your eyes. Like, I can't have the world seeing me like that.
So it's a good thing that we're not posting the recordings anymore, although it would be fun for our listeners. And so maybe they need to let us know if they'd like us to be posting these videos back again. But I know you've got to be keeping lotion around somewhere, because I know ashy skin is not something you want.
I got a few things, I got a little organic peppermint, situation by organics. And then, I got a little, look, and then a secondary, I got like a little vino. So, I mean, like, we're going to be moisturized on this podcast.
Well, when we feel good, we work well and we present well. So
how are you doing? How are you doing this?
I'm good. I've been up early. I'm on several cups of coffee, getting the mind going, doing a lot of research and thinking about what this means for our educators in practice, like connecting that theory and practice for social emotional learning. And I'm excited because our guests today are from my home state of Pennsylvania, but on the other side. So we won't talk about, the Steelers and Eagles and the Pirates and the Phillies, although Phillies, I don't know, by the time we listen to this, the World Series will be over. But my friends here are from the Pittsburgh side of the state. And so we have Ian Miller and Heather Berney with us. They are the principal and assistant principal of Shaler Elementary School in Shaler Area School District. And so they are doing some really cool things with their 4th, 5th, and 6th graders to create an environment where social emotional learning is really embedded and kids are feeling connected to each other and to the educators. And so let me give you some quick bios and then we will jump right into hearing about what they're doing. So Ian, this is his 9th year as principal at Shaler Area Elementary School, which is phenomenal because where I come from and my experiences, principals kind of move around. And so I think that's a huge credit to do the work. He has also worked as 3 years as a primary principal and was a kindergarten and 1st grade teacher, which I think is phenomenal because being the mom of boys, I would have loved for my kids to have some male educators early on in elementary. And Heather, this is her 22nd year in education. And she was a high school English teacher for 11 years, assistant principal for 11 years. And she has also been in the Shaler area district community since 2006. So we are working with two people who are deeply committed to their school community. Heather has a BA in English and secondary ed, master's in ed tech, and a principal certificate and a curriculum and instruction supervisory certificate. And so what I have learned working with them over the last couple months is that they have created a house system within their school because if I remember correctly, Ian and Heather, you have several elementary schools coming together into your school district. So I just want to welcome you and say thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to learn from you more on what you'll be sharing with us today.
Well, thank you for having me and for having Heather as well. Listen, I hear you on the coffee. I think I'm 2 or 3 cups in this morning, so we are ready to rock. And Craig, you made me laugh with the lotion in the drawer because I had a mentor who once said, "Listen, don't ever be too proud to have a drawer in your desk with all the things you need. Have everything. You never know what's going to come up." So I appreciated that.
Yes. You never know what kids are going to need as well.
That is
Absolutely.
right?
true.
So
Yes.
That is
being able to support our kids' needs as well.
Sorry, I had technical problems. I'm back.
You're back. No, that's awesome. Thank you. So would you mind giving a little bit of context to our listeners about, especially with COVID and having several buildings coming together into yours, what you were seeing that really led you to think about creating this house system?
So it's interesting. Pre-COVID, we were kicking this idea around. We were looking at what we were doing with our school-wide positive behavior supports. We felt like it was maybe getting a little stale. The kids just weren't as interested as they had been in the past. The teachers seemed to, again, be disengaging a bit. We were talking about it, and then our world changed. Pandemic hit. Uh, when we came back from COVID, we saw very quickly that our students appeared to be struggling in social situations. It looked to us that the things that they were able to do, the connections they were able to build with one another, the problem solving, the ability to make friends, to maintain friendships, they just weren't doing the things they could do before. And we were hearing the same things from families and from teachers. So, we got together and talking and listening to our community, to our kids, and especially to our parents, and thought this is the perfect time. We're all about evolution. We talk about it a lot at the elementary school, and why not now? Why not take something like a pandemic, which was a terrible thing, and find the good in it and do something we thought would be good for our students. So that kind of put us where we are now, which is this journey into our house system.
And if I remember, Heather, this was something too that when I talked with Ian, he's like, "Oh, this was Heather's idea. She really kind of was the creator of this." So can you talk about what your vision was for this?
I don't know that I had a vision per se. It was just we talked. I was new to the elementary school, so I have always been a secondary person. I was a high school English teacher and a high school assistant principal. And at our high school, I actually implemented PBIS at the high school level, and which is a monumental task. I had never heard of PBIS as a high school teacher, and actually, as part of my interview process for the job, I did a presentation on PBIS, and then they said, "Congratulations, the job is yours. Now you're going to implement PBIS for us." So if you've ever worked in high school or worked with high school teachers, PBIS was a challenge at the high school level. So I had to do a lot of work with the staff before we could even implement with the students. So it was a great learning experience, and proudly our high school continues to achieve fidelity each year with the work that they continue to do, and it's really wonderful. So when I came here to the elementary school, working with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders was a whole new world for me, and did a lot of learning on the fly. And we knew that our PBIS system here needed an update. I mean, that was a frequent point of conversation, and we talked about me kind of sliding into that role and leading our PBIS work and update. And when COVID hit, everything just went, as you know, just the world as we know it changed, and education as we know it changed. And so we talked a lot about what can we do? How can we evolve, as Ian said? And one thing that I saw coming into this building as kind of an outsider or a newbie was that our 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were very siloed and very separated. And it was very, obvious to me that, even the staff, 6th grade teachers could go almost the whole school year without interacting with 4th grade teachers, and 5th grade in the middle. So there were some interesting dynamics that I saw. And in us talking and our countless hours of conversations of how can we fix this? How can we make this building connected in a vertical way, and help our little 4th graders not feel so intimidated and overwhelmed coming into this building, and help them not be so scared of those 6th graders, I actually think Ian at one point mentioned something about a house system, and then I'm a researcher by nature. I dug in and started researching what's a house system? What does that look like? And of course, I ran into all the Ron Clark Academy stuff. And that was really interesting. And then actually our primary school neighbor across the street, Scott Primary, implemented their version of a house system a few years ago. And so they were very anxious for us to join them and kind of continue that work at our level. So that's really kind of how it all came together.
I know I'm curious. So, well, what denotes the characteristics of each house? So how do we distinguish one house from another?
That's a great question. So part of the challenge that we faced in building our system is that we are a very large elementary school. We have a little less than 900 students, Ian, I would say. So to make houses manageable, we wanted to make sure that we kept them, right around 75 students per house. So that means we have 12 houses, that's a lot. Most house systems, will have 3, 4, 6, but we had to double that to 12 to keep our numbers very manageable. And I actually turned this over to our teachers. I have a great team that works in this building on this, and they really ran with it. So they started looking for what are things in 12s? I mean, it really came from a true research lens for them. And they found we toyed with like the Roman gods. And then, we looked into that and thought, oh, nope, there's some not school appropriate ones in there. We can't have those. And then they actually found what became our houses, the 12 elements of nature. So each house is one of the 12 elements of nature. And then we looked up and researched, like, what are the characteristics, like character traits associated with that? And we just built it out from there.
To me, one of the challenges of the team, and I think they handled it incredibly well, was determining that number, which sounds so simple. But when you're talking 900 students and over 100 staff members, and how do we take something that is so large and break it down so we can build connections? I felt like the word connection was sort of this overarching theme. We wanted our kids to feel connected. We were worried they were disconnected through COVID. We've been talking to parents about the 3rd to 4th grade transition, and we felt like we had done so much with that transition, but we were still missing something. And we knew Scott Primary was doing this, and there was a lot of interest, there was a lot of excitement. And with what our needs were and the interest in the families and the interest in the community and our teachers buying in, which was critical. And Heather and her team did an outstanding job. We were able to sort of pull people in. But then we thought, with 900 kids, we're not typical. We can't do 4 teams and have hundreds of kids sitting in an auditorium at one time and say, okay, let's connect. So breaking it down the way we did with our staff and our students have taken these houses and not only, I think, made them exciting and unique. Honestly, from a practical school leadership standpoint, made it manageable. And I think, we all know that's incredibly important. This stuff doesn't work if we can't actually do what we're saying we want to do. So I think before we, were able to dig into some of the details, it was that foundational work that Heather and her team did that has set us up to be successful.
Yeah, one of the things that has been resonating with me as you're both speaking is this concept of evolving, that I think COVID gave education and educators an opportunity to do something differently. And I feel that in some cases, we collectively have missed the boat, that we could have really used this opportunity to improve and to redesign the system. And so I'm really inspired that you've done that. And Heather, when you were talking about the separation of the grades, I really think that was a trend that happened many years ago, because in the district that I worked in, the middle school was also set up like that. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were separated and purposely segregated from each other because they didn't want them to kind of influence one another. And so they were totally separate floors where there wasn't much interaction. And I'm sure that at some point that served a purpose, but looking at where we're now, we really need the students to connect and to build with each other. And if you think about, fourth graders and the disruption of school because of COVID, they were in first and second grade, right, when this was all happening. And what did that look like for the sixth graders? And so really allowing them opportunities to connect and grow so that they're not feeling, so isolated from one another within the building is really admirable. And so can you talk a little bit about when you get the groups? Oh, wait, I also wanted to mention, I love that it was a natural process. Like, where is this sense of 12 and really empowering the teachers to be a part of that process instead of it being something kind of forced and not making sense for them? What does this look like when the groups get together, and what does that mean for your schedule? And I know this is something new, so it might be, something that is in flux right now. But what is that looking like, and what happens with that time?
It looks like organized chaos is what it looks like.
That's a good thing.
We had to identify 12 areas for these large groups to go. That was a huge, part of what our design process was, because we live in Western Pennsylvania, which for those who are familiar, one day it can be 75 degrees and absolutely gorgeous. And the next day it's 30 degrees and there's sleet coming. We have this weather with this wild swing. So we couldn't always depend on being outside, which is our preference. We've spent enough time cooped up inside. So we have outside locations, but then we had to identify 12 areas within our building where we could spread out. So we are literally in every nook and cranny of this building where we can cram 75 kids and 8 to 10 adults. So it's truly organized chaos. But we developed a 1 hour delay schedule. So we run this schedule, and in that 1 hour in the morning is when we will have our meetings once a month. We are still working out the kinks and, tweaking things. But so far, I think it's gone really well. We had a big kickoff rally and we were all outside for that, which was a lot of fun. Kids in their t-shirts, adults in their t-shirts, some dressed up. So brought a lot of energy. But that's kind of how we're evolving. And that 1 hour a month, we've really prioritized and said that it is an absolutely incredibly important hour a month for us.
So I will say, I think Heather's underselling a little bit. The adults dressing up, because a big part of this for our adults too is, listen, we need to get back to having some fun. When we're having fun, these kids are having fun, and we're talking about connections. And you want to build relationships, and you want to take the walls down and let these kids see you're human. Have a little fun, and a lot of our teachers embrace the fun. They have their house colors, and some people were in. They did some really fun, silly, kind of wacky things, and the kids loved it. It showed the kids that, hey, we're all in this. We're all doing it, and that kickoff was huge. 900 kids, a rainbow of colors, teachers dressed in ways that kids have never seen them dressed before. Music, excitement, but with a purpose. Because we left the kickoff, we actually sent the kids to lunch, believe it or not. We came back, and then we had our first house meeting, and our focus was relationship skills. You talk about the 5 different areas in SEL, just to bring it back to that. We were working on relationships and teamwork in that first house meeting. And to me, it was critical because we had all the fun. We got everybody in, and now it's like, okay, this is why we're doing it. So really purposeful in our planning around our house meetings. And again, I'm going to get Heather and her team that do that work. The work behind the scenes, the lesson planning that's gone in, we have teachers who are planning. They're not sort of flying by the seat of their pants. It is detailed. It is intentional. The hour is planned to the minute. So everybody sort of has a idea as to what they're doing and how they're getting there. And then everybody gets to be creative and put their own spin on it.
Wow.
I will add, I just wanted to add that Ian led by example. We talk about underselling, but our head building principal, who wears a tie every single day, showed up to work that day. He's on the House of Force, which is purple, in a purple brocade suit jacket and purple studded shoes. So he set
Oh.
the bar very high for staff and their participation. So I even have to up my game the next time. So truly, it was a building-wide effort. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I mean, it just sounds pretty amazing. I have to be honest, when I first heard about the house system and different house systems, I immediately think about Harry Potter and Hogwarts. And granted, in this political environment, it might could be considered a little too risque for folks. But I really started to think about the house system, for them, where you got Gryffindor, that's known for like bravery and chivalry and helping others. You got Hufflepuff, that's about hard work and loyalty. And you got, like, I think Ravenclaw is intelligence, if I'm not mistaken. And then Slytherin is about like cunningness and ambition. And I, know that may not be what is the part of the framework here, but my mind really started to think about, Harry Potter. What I also thought about actually comes from the NACI accreditation process. So as part of my background, I'm an elementary principal, an elementary educator, and I helped my prior campus get their NACI accreditation. For those who don't know, NACI accreditation is like the National Association of Education for Young Children, and the focus is on early childhood programs. And so when you were talking about the nature-based aspect, immediately made me think about I think it's called the SEED framework, and I might be off. I have to do some digging in to see, but that's like a nature-based social emotional learning approach. It sounds very similar to what you all are doing. And so that approach this framework is really centered on connection, nature, and providing like relationship, like centering, all of what you're talking about on caring, relationship, kindness, sustainability, the earth, and more. So really got my juices flowing to really trying to imagine, where what your wonderful campus looks like, how you actually have everyone out in different spaces, dressed and adorned in these inspired elements, as well as a connection to nature, which I think is pretty brilliant.
Yeah, our teachers have done a great job. Our team has worked really, really hard and really moved this process forward. Staff buy-in is never an automatic, even at the elementary level. We have people don't like change. People don't like to have their routines disrupted, and we're already stressed out enough in education with COVID and the after effects. So it wasn't an automatic that this thing was going to go. So I really worked hard with this team and tried to really empower them to take a good hold of this and make it their own, so that they would have that built-in passion that you need when you're trying to launch something and you get that pushback, and you have your colleagues who are pushing back on you, and colleagues who are not necessarily wanting to, embrace these ideas. So they've done a really tremendous job of not only designing this and crafting it, but putting it out there, and then really trying to bring their colleagues along, which I think has really, really helped with this. And really, we did need to get back to fun. Ian said it very well. Like, this is an elementary school. We by nature should be having fun. And I think after the last 3.5 years, we need some fun. We need to lighten it up and enjoy the moments that we're in and enjoy what we have going on here. And it's been a really great, so far. It's a lot of work, but it's been really great so far.
Is it okay if I say one other thing? Yeah. Okay. So when I think about the work we've done so far, I always go back to, we had very intended consequences. We've talked about a lot of those, right? Very positive things, whether it's shifting attitudes in our staff, and our kids to looking at behavior. I mean, we're talking school-wide positive behavior support. It is the first time I think I've even talked about the word behavior, by the way, but we're in elementary school. Stuff happens, and we wanted to build this to help with that too. And of course, academics, but there were unintended consequences as well, and we're feeling some of those. As the team was designing some of this, word was trickling out, and you saw more people getting interested, people thinking about some of these shifts. We keep joking about fun, but it's more than fun. But we saw people start to shift their actions and their thinking. I will tell you, as an administrative team, we always felt like, were we doing enough to support our staff? Were we taking care of people? Back to this, how do we care for one another? And we very intentionally, I think, because it came from this work, went, maybe we're not doing enough. What else can we do? Let's think differently. And we made some small tweaks, adjustments, some things we came up with, some things we borrowed or stole from our colleagues, but little things for our staff to demonstrate, that we care and we appreciate them. And I think that came from this work. When I go back in hindsight, it started with this work, and it has just sort of trickled out in a very positive way into the building and all aspects, everywhere from us to our secretaries who are all in, to our custodian who was begging for his shirt because he couldn't get it quick enough to be a part of his house, which was amazing and exciting. I mean, he couldn't wait to get it, couldn't wait to show the kids that he was all in. It has been contagious. And while we were hoping for some of that, I don't think we expected it to happen so quickly.
When I think about that idea of self-care, and Craig and I have been talking a lot about that on our podcasts, and how do we not only focus on SEL, but for our students, but for ourselves as well. And I know the initial thought probably with educators is, one more thing. And, we're going to change. We've already had so much change, but there really are some when things are planned intentionally, and you've mentioned fun, and that's how our brains learn. We learn through play and through fun and through processing these pieces. And I think sometimes that part gets overlooked. And when we're having intentional fun, and a colleague of mine and a mentor, Tom Stecker, says, if you don't like the word fun, call it full engagement. And that's really what we want at any level of, our young people to our adults. And sometimes these shifts and these changes and this intentional full engagement and fun is what helps us become fully alive and more of ourselves and fills our buckets. And so even though it might seem like it's one more thing, it is the thing that helps us move forward and really launch. And so I appreciate you talking about that self-care for the educators, and also maybe the shifts that could happen within the behavior of students, and making good choices and thinking about the connections that they've made because they want to show their best selves for each other.
Krista, I'm glad you said that, because, one of our focuses, and I mentioned obviously the teamwork and the relationship building, but it is school-wide PBIS, and we're also looking, and I know Heather always uses the word campaigns or focuses in terms of things in the building. And, we made the decision to focus on our hallways, because while we're in elementary school, we're unique in size. And at times it feels like a little middle elementary hybrid. And it's always that push and pull as to which are we and how do we want our students to act. And hallways are always an area that we feel like, hey, we should be focusing on this because we might be okay with how they're going, but they could be better. And that was something that was discussed, examples and non-examples given in our last house meeting. And then we said, hey, for the next month, let's all focus on this collectively as a building, everyone, every person. And you talked about how the impact we can have. When we see a lot of our kids in the hallways now, and they see us, and we're saying positive things, and we're encouraging for them for the right decisions they're making, we're kind of filling that bucket. We're making them feel really good about doing something that in the past they may not have cared about a whole lot. It didn't matter a lot. And I'm walking by our younger students, and they're, walking in lines, and they're really quiet, and they're smiling because they know they're going to get a compliment. And now if they get complimented based on our house system, they're being rewarded with a point system too, which is actually helping to extrinsically motivate them, which we know kids need sometimes, in addition to that intrinsic motivation. We all need some extrinsic motivation sometimes. But we've seen little bits of immediate impact based on some of the work. And I don't think it's just getting down and saying, let's talk about hallways this month. It was really pulling together and having our kids 4th, 5th, 6th grade combined. So it wasn't isolated, like you said earlier. We combined them and gave our older kids an opportunity to lead. They went out and they had to make videos on examples on how to walk appropriately in hallways, which sounds simple and silly, but the sixth graders led. The teachers filmed. The teachers didn't say, do this, do that. They said, okay, here are the non-examples. Let's talk about how you should behave in the hallway. Here, I've got the iPad, organize it, plan it, execute, go do it. And sixth graders took the lead. The younger kids followed, and the product was outstanding.
Yep.
I'm pausing because I see Craig's wheels turning, and I'm not sure if he's going to jump in or not.
There's so much, but I'm curious, how do you also bring teachers back in so that you could kind of talk about what's working, what may need to be tweaked? How are you building more buy-in and efficacy with your staff?
Heather, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Yeah,
I don't want to step on your toes.
No problem. I think we're having a lot of informal conversations. There are three of us in this building, 3 administrators. And so we're talking to people and getting a lot of that feedback. Our team will be meeting again. And we've set up the schedule so that we have our team meeting the week before each house meeting. And then I know they've been getting feedback from people. So we're going to meet and kind of do a debrief, what worked, what could we do better, what do we need to change, and kind of look at that. And then when we put out the next agenda and the plan, we'll make adjustments then. So I think that we're really trying to gather that feedback because it is important that, whether it's technical things about how we actually transitioned, or how did we communicate? Do we need to communicate differently? We also have a building leadership team that meets once a month, and we gathered some feedback from our various building leaders who represent the different departments and grade levels in the building. So I think we're looking for different avenues, whether it's a formal or informal way, to get some feedback from our teachers to say what did they like, what could we do differently, and what can we improve upon.
Heather, I think that piece is really important, that we're looking at our teacher leaders. Like I said, we have a dedicated, established building leadership team who is not necessarily our school-wide positive behavior support team. So it's different lenses and different people and different levels of buy-in. So talking to that group, in addition to talking to Heather's school-wide team, who is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and getting feedback from that group as well. We have a lot of different meeting structures in the building. So we gather it whether it's a grade level meeting, or we have these smaller teams. We have a teaming model. So team meetings, department meetings, sometimes it is as simple as what Heather said. I was in the 4th grade hallways watching kids go to lunch, and the campaign is hallways, right? So how do we provide immediate feedback, and how do we, tweak things on the fly, and to do it in a way that doesn't feel threatening? I'm watching kids walk, and we've been joking a lot with the first teacher. He's like always first out the gate. He might be leaving a minute or two early for lunch, which everybody else points out to me, his colleagues, as they're having fun with him. But his kids they're on it. They are doing what they need to do, and they're great. And the next one comes by, and the teacher's all in. So she's smiling at me because she's going, "Hey, how about us? How about us?" And I'm going, looking good, looking like, I don't know, the first one through might have you, but boy, you're looking good. Improve, and just having fun with it, but still providing some of that feedback. Or, the 2 kids in the back, "Hey, you guys are walking, you're great. Your voice level's a 0. Slide over and get into that line." And then we'll be even, just immediate on the spot feedback for the kids. And then for the teacher too, sometimes indirectly, because they're hearing, I've got 8 kids in the back we've got to focus in a campaign, and they forgot, or maybe I'm not really focusing on it myself. So we found that to be effective. In terms of looking at data, I wouldn't say the data is clean by any means, to be very honest with you. But when we focus on something like a hallway campaign, and I said we've been collecting points, so students are receiving points for doing these things. We have an app, but I won't say what the app is or advertise it right now. But we have an app that we were lucky enough to purchase, and in addition to being able to reward the kids for being safe, respectful, or ready, which falls under what we do for school-wide, there's an opportunity to put the notes in. So we can sort and sift through that data to identify, what percentage of those points are dedicated to hallway. And then we can also sort it out by grade level. We can sort it by team. We can sort it by homeroom teacher. We can sort it by house. So we can look at the data, all of these different ways to then provide feedback. And it gives us a pretty clear picture, not only as to how are the kids doing, but which teachers are really buying into the system in its entirety.
I think that feedback loop is really important, right, Craig?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
One of the things that I'm wondering about too is when you have the 75 students come together, how many teachers are with them? And do they break up into smaller groups? Do they all stay together as a group of 75 because of the space? Could you talk to us a little bit about, like, I'm a logistical, like, okay, I need to see, like, in detail, what does this look like? And then I have a quick follow-up question for that.
Do you want me to take that, Ian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's a little bit of both. So there are anywhere between 6 to 9 adults with each group. It just depends on who's at work that day or, who, whatever. But we have, 6 to 9 people in each house. And we plan activities that require both the large group and then breaking into a smaller group. But we also allow each house to make that decision for themselves. So we're not big on micromanaging, Ian and I and our colleague Denise. So we like to give people that space. But we definitely, this past house meeting, we felt it was really important for the kids to interact and kind of introduce themselves. So we planned an activity where they paired up with someone they didn't know, told each other something that they about each themselves, and then we had them then regroup into fours. That snowball activity. So they did that, and they did that in the whole group. And that took, I don't know, it didn't even take 5 minutes, I think, total. It's a pretty quick but effective activity. And then, as Ian mentioned, we did a lesson on hallways where the teachers demonstrated how not to walk in the hallway, which, of course, staff had so much fun with, acting like the kids and doing all the things that kids do in the hallways that we wish they didn't. So, and then from there, several of the houses broke them into smaller groups to let the kids do their work and talk about what they should be doing in the hallway and then filming their examples. So we do a little bit of both, of the whole group and then into smaller groups, so they're more manageable.
One of the things I was thinking about too, and Ian, you mentioned data, and Heather, you talked about the research, is that when we look at data for social emotional learning, like, it's always messy and people want to put it into a quantitative box. And really, it's the qualitative pieces, I think, that are really most powerful. How are the teachers feeling? How are the students feeling? What are they seeing? As opposed to, just check boxes, right? And I'm thinking ahead on how this type of a framework is going to impact the future connections for students. So as your 6th graders move on to 7th grade and you have new 4th graders come in, like, the opportunity to do a send-off. And I've heard about this from another school district in New Jersey who is doing something similar, but with high school, and, celebrating the send-off, but then planning a welcome, the new incoming people to their group. And then, since they're together for these years, what does that look like? And how cool is that when they go into the next building to reconnect and see each other again? And so you're really setting a foundation for connection and learning that I suspect is going to be long lasting for them.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. I think you nailed it. We're looking to build connections and relationships, but it's bigger than just elementary and 4, 5, 6. We're Shaler area is a very close-knit community, and these things matter quite a bit. So, yeah, this is far more reaching than just the 3 grade levels that are here, and we're hoping these connections are long-lasting. I think about our kids now, but I think about them when they are at the middle and the high school level. We all know what it's like to be that incoming 7th grader or that incoming 9th grader, and to feel small and to feel overwhelmed and to have those familiar faces, not just a person you saw in the hallway maybe in the past, but that person was in my house. I spent time with that person. That person knows me by name and I trust them. And I think that's so important. Like, I know that person's going to help me if I need help at the high school, if I'm lost, which in our high school can happen. So I couldn't agree more. And, that's something I think our team will focus on as we move closer to the end of the year. Really, how do we build the next steps, especially in terms of bringing the next group of kids in? Because this year, it was a big task to sort everybody in the building and to get everybody doing this for the first time. But next year, we're going to have kids and adults who are going to want to hit the ground running. And it's like you said, how do you bring the next group in? How do you make them feel welcome? And then how do you continue the work that we're doing? Because I think that's going to be one of the longer, range plans, especially when we frame it around SEL and school-wide. It's how do we dive a little deeper? How do we focus, more on giving these kids maybe opportunities to look at some problems that we're having in the building and find 12 different ways to analyze a problem and work toward a solution? I think things like that could be incredibly powerful. We're not there yet, but I think that those are some of the things we'd like to really look at and truly empowering students and getting into student voice.
Thank you.
Well, before we come to a close, we have this question that we ask our guests. What would you consider to be your SEL superpower?
He gets it, people every time, and I'm here for it. I'm still trying to figure out how I would answer that question.
I'll go. And Heather, you can, by the way, laugh at me if you go, yeah, no, there's no way this is yours. But okay. I mean, honestly, I feel like for me personally, I feel like I know who I am. I know my strengths. We talk about this a lot. I also know who I am, and I know the areas that are not my strengths. I know my areas of weakness. And I feel like by recognizing that, I surround myself with people like Heather and like Denise and our teacher leaders as well, who help to lift me up in those areas. I'm kind of a big believer in strength in the strength. Personally, just one of my personal things. I'm not a big believer in dwelling in areas of weakness because you can only grow so much that way. But you can really get good at the things that you like, that you enjoy that you think are a strength. So to me, I think I know my strengths pretty well. Heather, I'm really curious to see what you're going to say.
I think you're right. I think you're spot on with that. My superpower is relationships, making connections. I think part of me is I'm a nurturer. So I try to take care of people. So I think I've worked really hard over the years to build connections and relationships. I went from teaching in a building to becoming an administrator in the same building, which is a unique challenge. And that definitely changed my relationships that I had with colleagues. And so it gave me an opportunity to work on forming relationships in a different way. And I feel like I've done that really well, not with just staff, but with kids. I really connect with kids, especially the ones that spend the most time in our offices. I think we feel like that, and they're usually the kids who truly need the most of that connection and that care from us. So I feel like that is my superpower.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess for folks who are trying to figure out how can we connect, we want to learn more. What would be the best ways for them to connect with you?
You can follow us on Twitter. We're at SAES Titans. So we are posting on Twitter. We're trying to share our experiences, our journey, if you want to put it that way. That's one great way. We can be reached by email. I can share those if you'd like us to. Yeah. So I can be reached at Miller, MILLERI @ShalerArea.org. Heather.
And my email is Berney, BERNEYH @ShalerArea.org.
Awesome.
We will have those in the resources for all of our listeners then, so they can connect with you on social media and email for follow-up questions as well.
Great.
That sounds great.
Yes. Well, it has definitely been quite the treat for us to welcome both you, Ian and Heather, to our SEL and EDU family. We are so glad that you joined us today. I'm sure that there's young people who are knocking at your door, maybe the adults as well, who are trying to get your attention right now. So thank you for stealing away time during your school day to be with Krista and I. For our SEL and EDU family, we absolutely love and adore you. We hope that each of you hold yourself dear and hold yourself tight as we stand together and hold to our SEL light. Y'all be well. Sending y'all love.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.